Chairman Pai, I want to follow up on the DDoS attack. What strikes me as difficult to digest is that there was an unprecedented number of comments that came in after the first John Oliver show that overwhelmed the system, and then there was another batch of unprecedented communications to the FCC website, and everybody figured that it was the same as last time, just intuitively. And then your CIO said that it was a DDoS attack, and yet, you know, Ron Wyden and I and others in the legislative branch said that doesn't make any sense. The tech community said that doesn't make any sense. I think a lot of people's first instinct was that it didn't make any sense. So I understand your reliance on your CIO. I don't blame you for that. My question is, did you have any doubt at any time before the report came out a couple of weeks ago?
Senator, on May 8th, I believe it was, that Monday, when I heard that the ECFS system had been overwhelmed for a couple of hours, as I then understood it, my assumption was that it was John Oliver's viewers.
Right, so I got that part.
Yeah.
But then the CIO tells you it's a DDoS attack.
Correct.
And then you basically declare to the world that it was a DDoS attack,
right,
and including communicating with Congress that a federal crime has been committed. And the thing that I wonder about is, given your expertise in the law and expertise in tech, that why didn't you entertain any of those quite reasonable doubts that were out there in the community, or out there among your former colleagues in the tech community? It just seems odd that the moment your CIO says something, that you run with it, and you ran with it quite aggressively all the way up until the point where, I guess it was last week or the week before, you say, well, I was duped. That's very hard to digest. So I'm trying to figure out, did you ever have any doubt between the point at which your CIO told you something and the point at which the IG told you that it was wrong?
Senator, I would urge any critics on this issue, read the entire report.
Right,
you will see, if I could just answer, Senator.
But no, you're not answering my question. Did you have any doubt?
Senator, I did have doubts, which is why I asked our chief of staff, who then asked the CIO explicitly, is this a result of John Oliver's viewers? He said, and I quote, "We are 99% confident this was external folks deliberately trying to tie up the server." And he continued, "This was definitely high traffic targeting ECFS to make it appear unresponsive to others."
So
Later on July 24th, I had a meeting in my office with certain IT staff. We asked them again, are you confident that this is what happened? They said yes, essentially replicating what the former CIO said in his statement.
Do you have, okay, I get it. So now you're trying to sort of muddle through this as your CIO is telling you something and the rest of the world is saying, that doesn't seem right. The question I have is, in terms of your relationship with this committee and the public, and in the context of a quite partisan, quite hot battle around net neutrality and the legitimacy of the participation of the public in this net neutrality process, did it ever occur to you to say, you know, I've got these doubts now, and so my declarative statements from before, I'm not so sure that I should stick with those, and I'd like to modify my statements. In fact, Senator Schatz and Senator Wyden, I'd like to answer the letter that you sent me. So at some point before the IG report came out, did it occur to you to communicate back with the public that this may not have been a DDoS attack?
Senator, on January 23rd of 2018, I was informed by my chief of staff, who had been informed by the Office of Inspector General, that they had suspicions that the former chief information officer's statements to us and to Congress were inaccurate. The OIG then requested, because they had referred this matter for potential criminal prosecution to the Department of Justice, do not say anything to anyone. Ultimately, the OIG, it became known that they were developing a report and that they were going to issue this report. Once we knew what conclusions were, it was very hard to stay quiet. We wanted the story to get out, not only because it vindicated what we'd been saying, that we'd relied on the chief information officer's representations, but also because otherwise we knew that members of this committee, including potentially you, would think, well, he knew something was wrong, but he didn't tell us about it. So the position I was in was, do we breach the Office of Inspector General's request for confidentiality, in which case the accusation from perhaps members of this committee would be, he's jeopardizing an independent OIG investigation, including a potential criminal prosecution, or do I adhere to the independent inspector general's request?
I know.
It's a difficult position to be in. I made the judgment that we had to adhere to the OIG's request, even though I knew we would be falsely attacked for having done something
Do
inappropriate.
you
here.
consider my line of inquiry a false attack?
No, I'm saying plenty of others have certainly not held loose about these
I
accusations.
guess what I'm looking for is some measure of accountability as the chairman.
Oh.
And I understand that you were in a difficult position, but I can't imagine that there was not another way to thread this needle and deal with us in our oversight capacity.
Senator, I guess my only request to you would be put yourself in my position from January 23rd until August 3rd or whatever it was the report came out. You have a request from Inspector General. Do not say anything to anyone. The story in this report vindicates my position. It was in our interest to get it out sooner. We wanted you to get this information sooner because it proved what we said. We didn't have the ability to do that. I could have done it, but then I would have been accused of stifling an OAG investigation, potentially frustrating a criminal prosecution. I did what I thought was the right thing to do, which was to stick by the OIG recommendation. And as I pointed out in my August 10th letter, and I quoted the very text on which we relied from May 9th, I believe it was, all the way forward. We relied on the representations of the former chief information officer, which in the OIG's investigation, and I would urge you in particular to read the memorandum of interview if you haven't. Those vindicate the position. We asked them, is this what it is? They said no. Have you talked to the FBI and DHS? They said yes. Those agencies have essentially concurred in our recommendations. That was not true.
Thank you.